send out the link to the video. I think it's better if I go to the Hangouts where that I should give the link to. Let me see. So it's running. Is this the running address? You guys know help? All right. You don't have to log in, but I know a lot of people like to. So I will post onto Canvas this link. I haven't watched these videos, so I don't know how much disruption it is when people come in. All right. Yeah, they're warning you at the top here. See, if you don't see your course anymore, it probably means that they dropped you. So be careful. If that happened, go talk to registration. Sometimes if your financial aid was slow in delivering, you can get dropped. You can get back in if you do. It involves me signing a thing, but if you find that, you go in there and you're gone. The section is gone. Deal with it as soon as you can, and I'll sign you back into class. Okay, so I'm going to do a new announcement. So I'll do strings live. I guess I don't have to do that as one word. Live link. And come down here. Actually, just save. So hopefully that link works. Okay, so let's go back. All right. Yeah. All right. Did you have a question? You having trouble getting in? I call it string stuff too because I did one earlier.
New files. The link, yeah.
Oh, don't just do that.
Are we supposed to download the file?
Do first letter.
Huh? No, I think he was just playing around with some stuff.
Try password. Try to do capital. Yeah.
Someone needs to mute.
Me, I probably need to mute. And change the password. The only problem is your code is understood. Student account is right on the way.
It's like a whole new chapter.
Yeah,
The string? The string stuff?
yeah. It's just a new file.
Okay.
And don't worry about the, you can name it string stuff. You can name it whatever you want.
Oh, no, not that. I meant, like, I wasn't sure if there's a graphics thing.
Oh, this one is going, we don't need, this is just going to be strings and lists. We might do a little tiny bit of graphics because they did talk at the very end of the chapter about using Kinter's file windows. And I might do that. There's nothing in the assignment that relates to that, but mostly I want to talk about, so let me get in here, strings and lists. And those two go together really well because a string is a list. We'll look at that in a moment. And then they also do files, which it seems like I guess they were just looking for a place. Where do I add that? So we've looked at a couple of data types. We've looked at int and float, right? String is we've kind of used. What is a string? I'm going to do a def name. So let's do, I'm just going to call it my string for lack of imagination. And let's just write something. What do we want to write? And single or double quotes, it doesn't matter. I'm going to go for single. We did a double, but let's do a single. This has already been a long morning. How's that? I overslept. The trains are late. Lots of things. All right. So that's a string. It's just a list of characters. It can contain numbers, right? But they're in the quotes. They're not being treated as numbers. And I need a Y on already. Although it doesn't. Again, it doesn't matter. What's in a string is. Now this is a fairly long string. If we wanted to know how long, I'm going to show you one of the functions you can do is I'm going to print len my string. All right, and then I have to, in order to do that, I need to make my main available. So I'll do this real quickly. We'll just keep adding things to this. So down there at the very bottom, where it's hard for you guys to see because it's behind my computer and things, it says 37. So this string is 37 characters long. If you look at it, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, spaces are characters, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37. So it's 37 characters. It includes spaces. Space is a character. A string is a list of characters. If you want to remove, just get out a piece of these characters. So let's just remove a character. So I'm going to say print my string, and I'm going to put square brackets, and I'm going to say arbitrarily 12. I'm going to print character 12 out of here. So I press F5, it gives me E. So if we look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Is that right? Yeah, because you start at 0. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You always start counting at 0. Not for length. Length gives you the actual number starting at 1. But when you're doing the array, when you're doing the list, this always starts counting at 0. So this is the 7th or the 12th character when you start at 0.
So wherever a timer at F5 stops working, just keeps going to select environment.
So we need
when I
this.
press
What's up? Let's hit select environment. Go to there to hit select environment. Maybe do more. We need Python.
haven't used this computer.
Yeah, so it hasn't been installed. So give it just a moment and reload and then it should work. Okay, so if we wanted to, and you can do this with any character in there, right? You could return any of them. This is what a list looks like, basically. And a string is always a list of characters. And that is true in every programming language.
So spaces don't count.
Spaces
Just
do count.
They do count.
Yes. So if we do this, this would be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The spaces count. There's a lot of nice things that you can do because these are characters. I am going to do a for loop for, and I'm going to do C because it's a character, but you could do in range. And what I'm going to do for the range is I'll say length my string, len, which is a function, my string. So we'll do a loop basically for the whole, for the length of the string. And I will do print C. Okay. So what that should do is it'll loop through the characters and print all the characters, and it'll print them out long. You know, does that make sense? If I do this, it'll do. I did F7 instead of F5. Oh, it gave me the numbers for this. Interesting. It didn't print the actual characters. Because C is the counter, right? How do I want to do that? Oh, I know. I want to say my string C. That makes sense? You want to print it out of my C. What it did otherwise is it just printed the numbers. Told you it's been a long morning already.
Yeah, you printed all the numbers, all the whole string thing.
Well, it should start from this.
Yeah.
But where did it go? Why is it not running?
Mine like says the letters, but they're not vertical.
That's the way it should.
It's just running, it shows the numbers.
It did the first time.
Right.
But when I put my string C, it should show the actual letters. I'm just trying to figure out why I'm not running at all. What?
Oh, yes. Yeah. And then it'll be,
Yeah, so.
It shouldn't. That actually shouldn't be. This should work as is.
and doing C makes it vertical.
No, it's the, so it's just the separate, this is like a separator. So rather than. So anytime.
Oh, there it is. It's running it. It's just buried down there. See, been a long morning, right? This, now it has it. This has already been, it's going through and it's taking every single character and printing it on a separate line. That's what it's supposed to do and what it was doing, but I couldn't see it because it was buried down below. So I've done it more than once. I'm just trying to show you that it is a list of characters. So I cleared it out. And if I do it F5 now, you can see the, morning goes through. Still does the 37 because that's the length. I'm still printing that out. Okay. You should, but you might have to scroll. Oh, you have an error. What is your error?
We're not there yet.
Okay. Does it make sense anyway? The nice thing about this is you can really manipulate strings. You can do a lot with the string. I'm going to try to return just a few other characters. So I'm going to yeah.
Sorry, good question. Did you have to indent print?
Yes.
You did, okay.
If you don't indent print, it doesn't belong to the.
Okay, so if it had been in line with 4, it went to work.
Yeah.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
So what's the E stand for?
Which he.
The first letter after the first letter.
Oh, remember I pulled out one character. I printed out 12 characters. That's the E. So we get, this is the length, it's 37. This pulls out the letter E because it's the 12th character, and then this one goes through and lists all the characters. I probably should label them a little bit.
Okay, so it's pretty.
I could do like, this would make it clearer. There are, actually I don't need a space if I do the comma, characters. Okay, and then I could do the 12th character is, and then that would give it a little bit more. I have to go way down there to see it. Way down. There are 37 characters. The 12th character is an E, and it's, yeah, question.
Shouldn't it be 13 characters?
No, it's 12.
Oh.
Well, its index is 12.
Oh.
Right? Actually, that's actually a good question because it brings up.
Yeah.
You start counting at 0.
Yeah, that's what I asked.
And the index, when you're doing this in here, this is the index, not the, what would you call it? Not the ordinal number, what it is. Right, because the it's 13 characters in if you start counting at 1. But indexes always start counting at 0.
Right, so it's 0, 1, 2,
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12. Yeah, 11, 12. So it's a 13th character if you start at 1. It's a 12th character if you start at 0. What you put in the square brackets is always the index, which is the 0 base, right? You don't put which. You don't start counting. If you start counting at 1, you'll always be a character off of what you think you're doing. If I put 13 in there, it would actually give me the next character. Or if I did, you really wanted to do that, you could do 13 minus 1 in there. But that is actually a good question. This is always the index. Every character has. This won't be on the video. Let me go take a picture. So let's say, just have this in the book. Hello, Victor, hello, Joe. Each one of these is its own entry, and including this actually. And this will be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. These are the indexes for those. And you can refer to them by their index. You can pull them out of the string by their index. Does that make sense? This is true actually in every language. In fact, if you go way back into languages like C, they don't have a string data type. They just have characters and character arrays. I'm going to show you another thing you can do. This is just a potpourri of string functions, by the way. It's not like a logical program. We'll do something more logical with it later, maybe. I am going to say I need a variable name. I'm gonna call it mid-string. I don't know what to call it. I'm going to say my string. And then in the parentheses, actually I'm gonna do square brackets, not parentheses. I am going to say, I'm gonna count here. Let's do 10, 10, 18, 10, 17. I have no idea exactly what that'll bring out. And I will print mid-string. Okay. Should I comment this just so I don't have it every time? I'll uncomment it when I post it. The other thing you can do when you want to clear the terminal down there, you can actually just write the word clear, and it clears out everything in the terminal. So I'm going to do F5. So I didn't quite get it. I was trying to get the word already. So there are 37 characters. I left that in. The 12th character is E. I could write this as the 13th character if you want, because you're right, it is the 13th character. We're starting from 0. And then I pulled out, notice how this pulls out from character, actually, I think it pulls out from character 11 to character 7. Right, it goes from the character following that until this is the end. It pulls out, it's like a substring, it pulls out a piece of it, if you know where the indexes are. So if I change this to 9, and run it again, I should get the whole word already. The way it's pulling out. So this brings me back to an H. No, it's a colon. And it's basically starting point, but it's start character after this. Does that make sense? So it's a list. I mean, you can pull out pieces of the string. Sure. Just to clear the book. Oh, you gotta comment. Gotta comment out the word. Other questions? I thought I heard that.
I think that was the question. I'm not coming.
Yeah, so you can't just comment out the print, you have to comment out the board if you're getting rid of that loop. And I got rid of it, just, I'll put it back on you when you got it.
So. So we made a comment. Why? If I may ask.
Why did I comment on that? Just because I wanted to all this character. Right. So I just commented out now. So that I don't have to see that every time.
And you would just only get what you want to print.
Yeah.
There are 36 characters in various.
Right. And I when I post this in the blog, I'll comment that. just so everything functions if you want to copy it. But right now, it's just really so that I can see the other things here without having to scroll so far.
You see, right now, it works.
Yeah.
Just like when this.
This is something you can do when you're writing more complicated programs too. If there's a piece that's giving you problems, you can comment it out for a while and see if things work around it and come back to it. Or if you've got it almost right but it's not working, you can comment it out so you don't have to start over because you have pieces of it there. So I mean, you can leave this, you can have comment in sections of code in there just to help you go forward. Or you might something over from Google that isn't quite what you want, but is close, and then just comment it in the code there, so it's right there for you to see. You know, it's a technique you can use to. And also, if you want to run some parts of your program but not other parts, you can just temporarily comment them out. So it is useful to do that. All right, so we got midstream. I'm looking to see if there's anything else right there. I do want to show something that goes with this string right here. So I am going to say, I'm going to call it word list equals my string, and I'm going to split it. All right. I think that's correct syntax. If it isn't, it won't work. Let me see. All right. So if I run that, or actually run it won't do me any good. That's temporary list. So I'm going to do F5 to get it cleared probably. Notice it creates a list down here. So this comma has comma already comma then this a comma. It splits out all separate. So you can take that sentence, split it, and by default it splits on the space. Does that make sense? So it's split out all the words in the list. Each one of these has its own index. Each one has 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if I wanted to pull a word out of that list, 4, 5, 6. I'll just do not there. I'll do print word list 4. That would be the 5th word in the list because it's. And I'm gonna down here just clear. All right, so I'm gonna do F5 again. All right. Oh, the 5th word is A. So you break it out. You break this not only into the characters, but you break it into words. That makes sense? Split is a really nice function. There are a lot of times when you might want to write a sentence that just component words. Our assignment actually involves that. We want to look at how many words we have, the average length of those words. It is, isn't it? No, it's because you start at 0.
Oh, so you can say 0 would be T.
Yeah, so 0 would be this. 0 would be this. 1 has 2 is already, 3 is then, 4, 5, 6. It's actually 7 words, but the first one is 0. It's always 0. Computer languages always start counting at 0. Not sure why. So if I were to change that to 5, we'd actually get a more interesting word. Yeah, a little bit more longer. All right. So long is the fifth word. 6 actually, but fifth is the index 5. And you can do the same. I will do this and then comment it. I'll do for W in word list in range. So I'm going to print word list bracket W. Okay, so this will do the same thing as it did for the characters, except this time it'll print the words one after another. See? So this, the longest is from word before. This has already been a long way. Take each of the words and press them down. I'm going to do that. As I said, this gives you a lot of power when you're manipulating text. And we're going to look at some lists that aren't just text. You can do lists can contain numbers too, or objects. Don't worry about objects for a while. Yeah.
Do you find them in your list, like character? Or is it one of choose that?
Let's look. I don't know if the find is such, but there might be a way to do that. One of the things you can do, but it involves something we covered it. You could do, you can basically go through a list and look for a match. So you say, so while you're looping through it, you do if word list W equals this, print it and stop, basically.
I was thinking about like, maybe when you have like a bunch of serial numbers or something and some data and you want to, whenever it starts with that DD or something, separate it out.
I think, I'm sure you can do that. I don't think it's as simple as a word, you know, find something. I think it's a matter of looking through the list and looking for, you know, character that you want to match. So for every time it matches that, you'd probably write it to a new list. I want to show, I commented that because again, I don't want to do that every time. But I'll uncomment it about it. I wanted to show you a couple of other string things real quickly. This actually kind of relates to Word. And then we'll go into some other things that you can do with lists besides just words. You guys ready? Is it making sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the things I want, so word list, I'm going to just do print, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to print upper. I think it's a lowercase. Actually, not word list. This one I will do on my string. Is upper right? I'm not sure of the syntax on that. Let's see if it throws an error. I do want to clear down here, I think. Yeah, that throws an error. Let me look at that. Syntax for upper. I think I might have to do. Let me. Oh, part of it might be. Is that in line? Let's try that before I do go messing around. Yeah, it still doesn't. Upper's not defined. I didn't use it. Right. Let's try that. All right, so it did it. See what it did? It said, this has already been converted all the strings. You can do the same lower. It will turn it all into lowercase. So if I did, I'm assigning it to the same variable. It doesn't have to be. So about lower would again turn it all back down to lower. And that needs a lowercase n. So now it's all lowercase. And there's also this could be useful. I believe there's a title. Maybe not. I saw a title case, but I'm not sure how you do that.
Mine still came out capitalized.
Did you changed it to lower? And then you printed it again? Let me see. So So I don't know if there is a title here or. What? I think it was like title. I remember seeing it. I'm looking in the real quick. I'm not gonna spend much time.
Capitalize center, down line, join, L dust, lower, L strip, place, R finding, R
It says title.
Says title.
So why is it not giving it to me when I do that?
So 148. So 148.
All right, let's try title. It works. It just in the color. And then I want to. So a title, every word is capitalized, right? Lowercase, the rest of the letters. So we have uppercase, all lowercase, and this gives us that uppercase. That's kind of neat. This is actually more useful than it sounds. When you're doing a match, like you're doing a password match or something, sometimes it's really best if you do like lower. You make sure that no matter how they type in, it's always lowercase. Right? So that way you can guarantee that it matches. You can save it as lowercase. Make sure they know whatever they type in, it reads it all in lowercase. Does that make sense? So that they match. Because we talked about how each of these is an index, but also the way that a computer stores characters, capital letters have a different code than the lowercase letter, right? They're basically 24 numbers apart. You know, you do all the lowercase letters and then you do all the capital letters. Each one has its own number. A capital letter, as far as a computer is concerned, is not the same letter as a lowercase letter. Okay. So if you try to match two strings, it's difficult because it has to match everything in case as well as in the actual content. Does that make sense?
So there's a different binary number for capitals as opposed to lowercase.
Yes. That's why a lot of languages are case sensitive, right? Because they're different characters and they don't build into the compiler thing. Word processors and things, or some things, basically, they do a lot of extra coding so that basically for every character you have to say either lowercase or uppercase will work. You know, you have to actually write code that checks for both values. But the value is different. In fact, I think I could do, is it car? There's a couple of things I could do that were in here. Let's do, I'm going to do print board. So let's just do print board A lowercase with quotes. And then I'm also going to do print board uppercase. See how that works. All right, so the lower, actually it's the opposite, that capital characters are first. Lowercase value is 97, and the uppercase value is 65. Most of you are probably going to remember looking at ASCII charts.
I don't look at this.
An ASCII chart is basically what is the, usually the decimal and the hex number. You go with every character in the ASCII, where there's 255 characters in ASCII. That used to be all a computer could do. Nowadays they have Unicode. And Unicode has a step-up value. So the first 255 characters are ASCII, and they're 8 bytes. Each character has 8 bytes to store it, zeros and ones. Then the next one, I forget how far it goes, 16,000 or so. And then it keeps, you know, it keeps going up for, this is 1 byte, 2 bytes, 3 bytes, 4 bytes. I think it goes up to about 8 bytes, which is fairly large for character sets. The thing that the Unicode has is this encodes only English and a few punctuation marks. By the end of the ASCII thing, you've got pretty much every known language on Earth. It has all the Chinese characters, it has all the Japanese characters, Manga characters. It has all of the, or what do they call them? It has all of the Russian, Cyrillic, Greek, all the different character sets. It includes Elvish, Vulcan, and a couple of other imaginary languages as well. Because it's, by the end of it, it's huge. And every modern computer has this whole set pre-programmed into it, but they used to only have the 255 ASCII.
I see what you mean, because when you press Alt after you get the ASCII or the Unicode value of the number,
Yeah.
since Alt for A97 print out an A.
Right, if you That's the opposite, right? So it's, they also have, all right, so let's do print. I think it's CHR. So we'll print CHR 97 or 97.
I didn't know. I haven't did that. And when I said this, she's coming, you know, she's talking to you, and then kind of like, wait, you're off.
And at the bottom, no, it prints out the lowercase a. Yeah, so the CHR prints out, takes the number and prints out the corresponding character.
Yeah.
And the org prints out the number that goes with the character, the actual number and the thing. If you did something, I'm going to do just something wild. I'm going to put CHR. This may print nothing. Not all characters are visible. So let's see what happens when I do that. God, it gave me a umlaut U. I know it's hard to see, but
Yeah.
I just do a random number. Okay, so we got that with strings. There was one other thing I wanted to show you was split. And then we'll call it good with strings and we'll start doing other kinds of this. Questions so far? I mean, actually, this would be kind of fun, just exploring what numbers go with what characters. All right, so the other thing I'm going to do, I'm going to make I'm going to call it day list. And I'm going to do square brackets, and I'm just going to do Sunday. And I'm not putting spaces in here, I'm just doing the commas. Monday, Tuesday, that needs to be in quotes. Okay, so two more. Friday, Saturday. All right, so this is the list. I've just defined a list of days of the week where I didn't capitalize anything. Now, there aren't any spaces here, so it's split with the way we did it before when we worked with the default on spaces. Remember, we did split way up here. My string split. All right, so I'm going to do another split of this list. But what I'm going to do is a list split, and here I'm going to do quotes and a comma. And again, it can be single quotes. So what we're going to do is we're going to split out a comma rather than spaces. And then I will print I think I need to give it a new. So let's do days. Well, they're already split, right? Let's change this a little bit. They're already split because I did them as a list. I'm going to do them as a single string. Sorry. I want to split them on the comma. The way before they were already pre-split. So I'm going to do, I'm just going to call it the days equals, and then I'll print days. The days is the split of this. And it's splitting on the commas because there aren't any spaces. Did it do it? No, it failed. Why? It says it doesn't have a type split. Oh, you know what? That's because I made it a list already and I want it to be just a string. I got ahead of myself. Because what I was printing out there was what it would look like when it was done. Now it should work. So now it does what I originally did. Right, it splits it out on the comments and makes it look like
The city thing.
all I wanted to show you can put on things other than spaces. Like if you had a content list, thing which are fairly common in database world, and in fact, even if there were spaces there, it's still split out comment.
Oh, that exposed.
All right, is there anything else that I want to do with strings? So everything that we've done with strings, you can do with numbers in this too. So let's do, I think I want a new file. This is here, I'll print it, right? Maybe even comment it a little. I'm going to uncomment the stuff I commented just for when I print this. Okay. So I'm going to make a new file.
Can you lower just the very last, the day list? Right there.
So what I screwed up with at first is that I wrote it like the list it was going to make. But actually what I wanted it for was for it to be a single string with comments.
Right, you took the brackets out.
I took the brackets out and I made it all one single quote, one single string.
So a string.
Yeah, it's just a string with dates in it, yeah, separated by commas. And again, the only point was that you can split on things other than.
Still not printed out.
So you need another minute or you got it? I could take a quick look.
Yeah, it says that some people have, it said database, equals, quotation marks.
That looks okay.
Pretty good at you.
Might be great. Undo that. Get rid of that. Yeah, I think it's going to break on that one. But it's breaking on that one because of the break point. Not because it's an error. It did? Yeah. There was a break point, which is good for debugging. It stops the code at a certain point so you can inspect it. And when you have that little red spot in the side, the monitor, that's what it means, stop at this line. So it wasn't executing it, it was just stopping there.
Good.
We'll talk more at some point about debugging and setting things up. All right, so I'm going to open a new file. Are you guys ready? No. You have a question, Nicole? There. Okay.
Should we save this?
Yeah, it should be saved already. I'm not going to close it out. I'm just going to make a new tab. Over here, if you want to save it, you can. I think I haven't saved a couple of little things about it, so I'll do a quick file save. And when you click on this, it gets you back to your program list if you don't have it, your list of your folders. So I'm going to open a new file. I'm just going to call this list examples pi. You can name them whatever you want. So I just want to talk a little bit about lists. Yeah. No, I actually uncommented it. And I only uncommented them because when I posted on the blog, I wanted to uncomment it. That looks fun. Yeah. Doing something. All right, so let's do just this will be about lists. Other languages have all sorts of data structure elements. They have arrays. They have oh, I'm trying to think of some of. They have list structures. They have linked lists. They have, I mean, all sorts of things. Basically, in Python, they're just lists. Lists handle all of the data structures, which is nice, but it's different than other languages. It's much more abstract, makes things easier in some ways, but it is a little bit different. So a list is a collection of things. All right, so let's do, I'm going to do def main. Let's just define a simple list. So I'm going to say, for lack of a better, I'm going to say numbers equals, and then we just do square brackets, and I'm just going to randomly put, actually there needs to be a number in there. 7, 4, 4, 2, 1, 0, 9. All right. There's no logic to those numbers, and if you want different numbers, that's fine. This is a list. We use square brackets to define the members. I'm going to show you other ways you can do this too. You can define the members with inputs and other things too. All right. So these are just like the character list in a sense. You've got all these different elements. They're separated by commas. These are integers. They'll treat it as a list of integers. If I were to put any one of these characters, if I had a dot, 0 or something, then it would be a list of floats. Does that make sense? It just determines by what's in what the values are, what kind of list it is. So I can loop through this list and we can do different things. So I'm going to do a couple of things. I'm going to say for I in, and I'm going to do, so like length or range. I'm going to use the same length function, and I'm going to apply it to numbers. Right? It will tell me how many numbers there are. So length numbers should come up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it should have 8 numbers. Right? That gives you, it's a lot easier. You could go and you could count them, and you could just say for I in range 8. Right, but we're just doing another way you could do it if you wanted to start counting to 0. You could do 0, comma, length of numbers minus 1. Like that means we haven't done that with a range, but you can put a starting value and then an end value. But if you're doing that with the length, because we're starting with 0, we need to subtract 1. Because indexes are different than the count, right? Does that make sense? We've never done that before, but I wanted to show you could do a starting value. So one of the things I want to do here is, let's do, get the total of all those numbers, and then we'll get the average. Does that make sense? It's not hard to do. So I am going to actually, outside of the loop, I'm going to just define a variable saying sum, and I'm going to give it an initial value of 0. And then in the loop, I'm going to say sum. I'm going to do this and see if it works. Plus equals numbers square I. You guys ever seen plus equal before? This is exact equivalent of what? Yeah, it keeps incrementing, adding the thing. It's exactly the equivalent of sum equals sum plus. All right. So I'm going to see if it works. I'm pretty sure it does. And that's actually all we need for the loop. So we can say, outside of the loop, I'm going to say average equals sum. I'm going to do the regular divider, so it won't be an integer division. And we'll do it by length numbers. Then I'm going to print beneath quotes. The total is, and then I'll do sum. Here's something I didn't do before, which I think I should show you. You guys know what that is? It's an end line. It's the same as doing another print statement. The average is, and then I'll do average. All right. Let's see if that works. So we created a list. All right, this is just assigning a variable and giving it an initial value of 0. I need to do it outside the loop because if I define it in the loop right here, technically it has the scope of the loop and you wouldn't be able to see it down here. Right, you can only see it in the loop. So what it's going to do is it's going to add each of these numbers to the sum. As it goes through, it'll just keep adding them. And then down here, we'll do the average, which is this, the sum of all of them divided by the number that is in the list, right? And then we print that out. And then the /n is just, hopefully it'll break the line. So when I do F5 here, did it do it? Oh, you know why I didn't do anything? Same mistake you guys often make. Didn't call it. Have to call main. So it didn't do the /n.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, it did. Well, it did it, but it printed it. It's not supposed to print it. Did I do this wrong way slash? Yes, I did the wrong way slash. This time it broke the line. That's what it's supposed to do. I just.
How can you remove that space in the second line?
I think what you would want to do is, actually, that's a good question. See if that does it. Gonna clear. That didn't do it. So one of the things that we could do is instead of this, we could do that. See if that works. Although I think I actually do need to still do this.
I think it's the slash, is that how the slash is supposed to look like?
Yes, because it didn't work last time. This time it did work. That got rid of the space. So I'm not sure if we looked at that. We were using the commas to join. You can also use the plus to concatenate, to bring things together. With the plus, that space goes away. With the comma, the thing about the comma is it always creates a space, which is nice a lot of times because a lot of times that's what you want. But then when you're breaking a line like this, it makes more sense to do it that way, I think. So we learned a couple other string things that are in the books, but I haven't covered. The line break and the plus for concatenation. Yeah. So average. Yeah, that's good. Right, let's see what you get. All right, numbers is not the top. So let's go down. Yeah, that's the problem. All right, so numbers is not the top. Numbers, yeah. Typically, when something doesn't go wrong, the first thing to do is to make sure you spelled all your variables the same. It's real easy not to if you're typing. Make sure that the case is always correct. That's why I'm keeping things pretty much lowercase for the most part. Almost always it's a typo. It's usually not a logic.
Mine's working. Can you just talk me through the math quick?
Oh, sure.
So I can put my notes.
So what we're doing here is we're looping through each number in the list.
Okay.
All right, so I is just a variable, could be anything. And I right now is going to, because we're going through the numbers, the first one will be 0 and it will be 1. So basically right now we're saying this is 0, so we're adding 1. Go through the loop again. The next time it will be 1, which will be 37, and it'll come down here and add the 37 to the sum. And then it loops again, and it just keeps adding each of these to
the previous
to the sum. That's what the plus equal does, is it just keeps accumulating all those values through the loop. And there's a reason why I did 0 here. The normal loop starts at 1. If that had been the case, we would have left this out.
Yeah, okay.
Because it wouldn't have got that index number.
Okay.
It would have added everything but that. It wouldn't have added 0.
So you're adding 0 to 1. Sorry, you're adding 1 to 0.
So the first time this is 0, right?
Right.
So the first time you're adding 1, so that makes this 1. The second time through the loop, it's 1, and you're adding 37, so it makes it 38. Third time through the loop, we've got 38 plus 4, which is 42.
When I play with the numbers a little bit, it's not capturing a 10 and factoring the 10. The final.
Oh, well, maybe I should. Is that true?
Change the 10 to anything else, but it doesn't change the outcome, it changes the other numbers.
Let's try taking the -1 off of the loop. So 68 instead of 58. That's weird, though. I believe you, and it's obvious that you're right. It's weird to me. Because if we were to do the length, it would say that there are 8 numbers, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it must be this number here has to be the number of loops, whatever the starting number is. Does that make sense? I'm just interpreting how it must be behaving, which is different than any other language I've ever taught, but that's okay. So it has to be just the number of loops, not necessarily the counting number. Typically in a for loop in another language, the outer number this is your starting number and the other is your ending number. This is just the total number of loops, and where you start is up to you. Which is good to know, actually. Thanks for checking the numbers. Other questions on that for a loop? All right. The average is just, the length of numbers does give you just the total number of things in that array or that list. And it doesn't matter. Notice we use the same function as we did with characters. It doesn't differentiate. It just counts whatever's there. If they were words, it would just count the number of words, whatever's in the list. All right. I want to show a couple of other list methods, and then we'll look at files, which I'll probably do as another. Files are fun. So let's create a list, an empty list, and we'll just add things to it. So what do we want to call it? The other one was numbers. Let's just call it my list because imagination is not my strong suit today. And this is how you define an empty list. Right? You just do empty brackets. This tells it that it's not a string. I mean, straight a string. It's not a int or a double. This variable is a list of something. Okay. So what I want to do, we could do it as a list of, shall we do numbers or shall we do words? Words, okay. So I'm going to do, we want to go through the list. Let's see if I can do, how many words do we want to add? Because in this case, the length of the list is 0. Let's just do 5 words. I'm not real enthusiastic about writing lots of them. So what I'm going to do is we'll do an input here. So I'm going to say word equals input, enter a word. And then I want to show you how to add to a list. So one of the things you probably want, make it space there. And then I'm going to do my list dot append. And what we'll append is word. So we're going to add a word to a list with the append thing. So there are methods here for doing this, and then I'm going to just print my list. So it's going to do our totals and averages again, but what we'll do is it'll ask us to enter words 5 times. We'll enter 5 words, and it'll create a list of those words. Does that make sense? And you can do the same with numbers. Append is how you add to a list. There's also things for insert and delete. I'm not going to go into all of those, but let's see if this works. Actually, let's clear down here. All right, so I'm going to F5. It doesn't like my list, and you know why? I don't know if it'll work. All right, so if I go down and enter a word, I'm going to be real imaginative. Then it crashed.
Because
it was because I had the capital letter there. And it's still there, but it's not actually, that's not the problem anymore. So let's do F5 again. All right, so I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you can see that it added it to the list, and they're all there. Does that make sense? I mean, you can manipulate, lists are really powerful. There's a ton of stuff you can do with lists. And they don't have to have a preset values. You can assign values on the fly to the list and just add it with an append. And unlike arrays in other languages, you don't have to determine the absolute number beforehand. In most languages, you have to say when you declare an array how big it's going to be. You don't have to with this, with lists. You can add to them for infinity. There's a lot of other list stuff, but I think most of them we'll probably do as we encounter them in other programming situations. Do you guys have any questions? Again, one of the reasons why lists make so natural with strings is that a string is a list, just by nature.
So you enter a word?
Yeah, I just said to enter a word. We could enter numbers. Right.
You get enter a word one. Oh, so you enter 1 or 2.
See right here it says a prompt, enter a word.
Uh-huh.
And so I just entered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can enter whatever words you want. And it makes a list of those words, with quotes and commas. Each word is a separate entity in the list. Mostly I just wanted to show the append that you could add a word on the fly. You could add things to a list on the fly. For instance, if you were doing a grading thing, you could just have a prompt where you enter the grades, right? And you could add them to a list. What?
Can you extend that example?
Oh, what, of adding a grade?
Yeah, like you would.
So this could get more complex. I'm not sure I want to do the most complex, because I would probably create a grade object, which would have like the assignment and the grade and all sorts of things, which we could do later. But let's say test grades. And we're not going to worry about like what student it is, and we're going to make it an array. And then I am going to say I just need a name for this. I'm going to just call it num equals input. How many grades do you want to enter? I kind of wish this would go away. Everything went away. All right, so let me bring this back. Wrong X to click. All right. I like this about VS Code. You don't lose anything. It comes back with everything still there. All right, so I'm going to do input, basically, how many grades? And I think that's all I'm going to say. All right, and then I will do, so we probably want, let's say we want the average. Well, let's just do sum equals 0. Actually, I have sum already. I need something else. Total equals 0. And then I'm going to do for, it's a grade, let's do G, in range num, right? Because we're going to do as many as we ask for. Couple of things I'm going to do is I'm going to say grade equals input. So it actually, so will these be integers or floats? Let's do float. I'm going to add these to, actually, so I have total there, but I'm going to just add these to grades. I'm going to put this up here. I'm going to do grades, and I'm going to make an array of grades. Grades, append, grade. And if that's confusing, change the names. All right, so what I'm going to do first is I am going to just loop through however many grades you want to enter and add them to an array of grades. So it's a list of grades. I'm going to actually, so I'm curious, I think we've got some other things we can do. So I showed you how to do, we've got count. I was just wondering if there was like a sum built in. It doesn't look like it. Sometimes with lists you can do so before I print grades, and then I will do, I guess we'll loop through grades. And I can do it again, I think. Maybe not. In range. Making this up as I go because it wasn't something I meant to do. And we'll do the total, which we've got of plus equal grades and G, but I think I also need to start this on 0. All right, and then we'll do the average. We just want the average. Print, actually, before you can do this, actually. You can do print, the average grade is, and I'll do comma, and I will do total divided by length grades. You can do that. I often would do that. I mean, you could do the calculation in the print. I think it's often better to do it as a separate line just because it's clearer. You know what I mean? You can often do the calculation or call a function inside of another function. All right, so what we did is we created a list of grades and an empty total. This one just gives us the grades. We're just going to enter the grades and add them to that array. Then I'm going to loop through that to get the total because we need the total to get the average. And I'll print out all the grades. Do I have that? So I print grades here, and then I'm going to loop through them and print out the average. So there's a lot of stuff here. Let's see what we get. So we've got the other one, 68 and 8.5. Oh, and we got to enter all the words. I should have canceled that out. 1, all right. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is all the stuff above, right? Now it's going to, how many grades? So I'm only going to do 4 grades. Ooh, and that crashed. Why? It doesn't like the data type, which is one of the problems with not naming them.
Is it the input for the flow? That's it.
Yeah, you just have to put. It didn't convert automatically. I am going to at least comment out this one for right now, just so I don't have to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I will uncomment it when I post. Oh, I made test grade. This should be test grade. Otherwise, I have an empty list. I mean, it would have done it anyway, but all right, let's do syntax error again. Float. It doesn't like float on grade. Oh, you know why? I know why. I'll walk through it if I make it work. Still doesn't like float. Oh, you know what? I know why. It has nothing to do with this. Does anybody see what's wrong? I didn't do an input. I was just saying turn that string into a float, which is what the error said. This will work now. Okay, so how many grades? So again, 4. I don't want to do a lot. Intergrade. Assuming 100 is the thing. Let's say somebody struggled a little. Somebody did pretty good. Somebody did really good. Somebody totally crapped out. And now the average. Why does it not like that? It doesn't like that line. Why? That should work. Did I do a typo there? I mean, I could do but it should evaluate inside.
When we do increment, the grade should be test grade.
The what?
The grade should be test grade. When we increment the total plus.
So we got grade. Grade is fine. We're appending grade to test grade. Which one are you thinking?
The grade.
Total plus equal grades. That should be okay actually. Length grades. Let's see if this works. Maybe we just didn't want to evaluate. Actually, I want to clear down here. That's something I really hate when you're trying to type down here and you end up typing up there. All right, let's see if it works this time. All right, so how many grades? Let's just do 3. 57, 97, 86. And it still gave me an empty. It's not liking the length grades. Anybody see an error there? that I'm not seeing? What is it not like about that? Up here we did average equals sum length numbers. Average equals, so it actually isn't adding it to the grades. All right, that's the problem. Test grade, append grade, that should work. Print grades, but it's not printing grades, that's actually where it's failing. Why is it not entering it here? The problem is, see when it says to print the grades, it's printing an empty set. And that's why this is failing. It has nothing to do with my, it's division by 0 is the error. Because the array is 0. Why?
Because you say total equals 0.
No, that should be all right, because that just adds in here. It should be like 0 plus whatever the first one is in the range.
It's because you're saying print grades, but you have test grade, not append grades. You're adding
Oh,
grades to the
yes.
test grade array.
You're right. So, thank you. That's because I changed the names of things and didn't change all of them. Test grade. And this should be length of test grade. Thank you, good eye. I changed it from grades midway and I didn't change it everywhere. And this should be test grade also. My brain is not good on a day when I haven't had enough coffee. This should work. So we'll do 3 grades again. I'm just going to randomly type some numbers. Whoa, not that number. Okay, the average is 75. That looks about right. Still didn't print out the grades because I said print grades. Right? Grades is nothing. Print test grade. And then it will do that. So, but that's good enough. That's the problem. If I were to do it again, it would do everything. Let's just do 3. Now it printed out the grade. Well, if you followed me, you have lots of it.
Because every time, like, when I do it, it gets the first part, right?
Yeah, how many grades?
And then when I look whatever I type in, it's like it didn't hit. So fine. 31.
All right, let's look.
20.
And you've got the input, yeah. Input.
31.
Oh, that's because it's just on cost. Grade equals test grade.
Oh, you know what?
Can you,
Up a little?
Yep.
Where?
right there? This grade.
Right. See, one of the things that I did, now grades is unused. I confused myself to no end and caused all those errors by declaring a variable after I declared a variable and then confusing the two. They're supposed to do the same thing.
Print the very last line on the grant.
Okay.
Oh, oh. I'm just following, I keep on. I never even got like, how to actually.
So go try to run it.
I was trying to look into
Yeah, comments.
Oh my gosh, right?
Okay, so it's working.
Yeah.
I do want to do a little bit with files, but I'm not sure if there's time. So let's see.
Alright, so what are we gonna do now? Can you see the photo?
Yeah, I think so.
This is just great. And great. Is that why?
Yeah, they did the same.
It's great.
Yeah, my grades was a mistake. I don't see. Maybe a little bit, I'll look at it some more.
You know, it's
All right, any other questions on lists? I mean, we'll be using lists all quarter, so you'll get use more of them. I might try to do, and Thursday will be open lab to work on the next assignment, so, generally I'll try to do that at least one day of the thing. So I uncommented that just before, because I'm gonna about to leave this file. Where do you need it?
That's great.
Okay.
So I think you
A little up. I killed grades.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, because grades, that's what got me all that trouble. Test grade, I had already made an array for that. And then while I was talking, I made another one called grades. And I got confused between the two, and that was all my problems.
Okay,
So I just got rid of grades, and we're just using test grade. Now, you could do the opposite. You could get rid of test grade and just use grades. But you only need one of them.
number.
The only other thing I could think of is just their indentation is wrong, but I don't see that. It looked good, actually, when I looked at it. I will post this on the blog, of course, too. Other questions before I move? Do we have time? Yeah.
So, am I not able to enter any values down here because this needs to be installed?
No, that shouldn't have anything to do with it. It doesn't let
I
you
do
enter.
notice that you're on PowerShell. I'm on Evo. It's the same thing,
Should
right?
be the same thing.
But yeah, I can't even click. I can't even. Oh. Huh. Okay.
I don't know why it would be not doing it. It may have just been freezing or something.
Okay.
Are we ready? I think I'm gonna spend like 10 minutes on files, and we can go over them later. There's not a lot we'll be doing with them. I'm gonna make another, I will save this. If it runs, you shouldn't have to save it. If it doesn't run, you do want to save it. Does that make sense? If it runs, it compiles it and saves it in the process. Okay, let's see. Yeah. So this is the very last thing. I'm going to start a new file. And I'll call it file examples. Actually, following my naming convention, I should capitalize file.py. And we're not going to do a lot here, but we'll write a file and read it with luck. So file management here is pretty easy. If I can just so I'm going to create a file. Let's see. I'm going to do def main. So, see if I can do this. Out file equals, and I think I just want to open. And I'm reading this as I'm going because it's a little bit different. I don't know that we have I want to make a folder like ctemp, and we'll call it ctemp, and then we'll call the file just outfile.txt. Now, one of the things I'm going to do real quickly is I'm going to go to C drive. So let me do a quick zoom. So I'm going to go to local disk C, and I'm going to right click new folder, new folder, and I'm going to call it temp. And the reason I'm doing this is just an easy place to put it, so we don't have to go look for where the file went. Although by default, it should go the same place that the program is at, so it might be okay just to do that too. What? If you want it to go to ctemp, yes, you need to create the temp folder.
Where did you put that temp folder?
On C. So let's see if I can get it up here. It's not coming up. Come on, folders. It's weird. It's not coming up.
But it was the disk PC, local disk C.
Yeah, I went to basically just not coming up to look at. There it goes. So I did just on C drive, I created a folder called temp. Okay, so let's go back. This may or may not work. This is part of what I wanted to rehearse and didn't get to. All right, so I'm not sure if I want to do this. I think I want to print and then I'm just going to do a comma, file equals output. And then I'm going to do another sentence. This, as I said, may not work. And that should have the. Now, I don't know. I think output file actually should be out file. I think that's just syntax to show you what kind of thing goes there. And then I'm going to try outfile.close. I'm going to call main. I don't know if this will work. Things may not be in the right order, but I think that'll work. Shall I try it? No, it throws errors. W is not defined. Whoa, and I killed it again. And I think that's because W is in quotes. So let's try that again. Okay, now we have another error. What is it not like? Still doesn't like W. Why doesn't it like? Oh, I keep doing that. We may have to do this part next time just because as I said, I wanted to rehearse this. It's a little bit different than other languages. Let's just write it to the Python folder, I guess. All right, I think it wrote. Although I think it'll be in, so I'm going to look here and see if I have a out file. It wrote to the desktop. Let me look. I don't see it on the desktop. But it did write.
Maybe you have your own account. Mine just did like user.
Oh, here it is. Outfile text. It's in my folder. Text. It's in my folder because I just didn't have the pathing right. If I open this, it says this is my first sentence. This is my second sentence. I should be also able to do that by going to. I think mine is in Documents. So Documents, Python Programs, Outfile, and there it is. So it did write that. So we did successfully write a file. Let's try to read it back. So I'm going to go to File Stuff, File Examples. So having written it, let's see if we can read it back. And then we'll call it good. So I am going to, we'll call it in file. I'm using the same equals open. And I guess we need to open out file text. And that should have quotes. And we want to open it for read. So we do R. The W is for write. The R is for read. And then we're going to do for line in file. And we're just going to print it. I think that'll work. Let's see what happens. Now, it's going to ask us to make a new file. Should I comment this out just to see if the read works? Because otherwise we'll have to create a new file. I'm just commenting these to see if the second part works. So, see, there it is. There's my first sentence. This is my second sentence. So it read the file. For text files, this is how easy it is. It gets a lot more complicated if you need to read binary. But I mean, it's really simple to write and read text files. And you can do all sorts of things with these, right? You can store information that you might want to keep, like configuration information. You can load it, and you can, because it's strings, you can parse it with all those string functions. So you can pull things out of it. You know, the line is just a string, so within the line you can do whatever you need to do to pull things out, making a list or whatever. So your other one wasn't working either, right? Why is it not working? Get rid of this out file. Just do my file. Yeah, I think if we wanted it in C temp, I might have to do. So, and then I think you have to escape it. See if it works that way. Didn't let me write. Why didn't it let me write? Oh, that's because I just told it to write those two sentences. If you wanted to give it, make it write something for you other than those two things. And I think now if I go to temp, it'll be there too. So if I go to C temp, there's out file. It did write to C. I just had to double the slashes. Well, you can have it if you want, just to see double slash. Double slash, yeah.
Yeah, so I think I have the same problem.
Yes. Yeah, I did also, but it has to be a double slash after 10.
After 10.
Yes. Before and after. You know how we did slash n and it was a break line? So what this does is it escapes it because otherwise it's thinking it's looking for a character like slash n. If you do slash t, backslash t, it assumes a tab.
Not there.
What? It didn't run.
I need to debug it right now.
So let's see. It says that there's invalid syntax. Okay, so I'm close the print. No, I've done print on. Gotcha. So this is invalid. You know what? So this is I think that's mine. That should be fine. I don't think let's actually look at this maybe. Yeah, that doesn't. Doesn't matter. Not for this. Sometimes the expected EOF. Get that closed. You know what? This one should have it closed too. It may be that the file has been left open. This one should have in file. Dot close. And close can matter because what? Not a colon. Oh, after info, yeah, for every line in info.
So it's still, for mine, the blue came back, but then for this one, the blue is here.
I don't know what's going on. The syntax was fine. I did this so that I'm actually reading, not reading two different files. I was going to show you how to put input in there other than just, like you could do a, a sign, say please, enter a text here. And so you do a input, do the text, and then assign that variable to the print. So you could dynamically add things to your file. I just wanted to show. I will post all this. I'll try to debug the ones that aren't working. There's something weird going on a couple of them. Like you're almost processing a different file, which doesn't make sense. I will post all these online. I might answer a couple questions next time, but it'll be mostly time. I'll go over what the assignment is, although you can look, and I'll give you some time to work on things. So there was a lot here: strings, lists, and files. And the file is a little touchy. I don't understand why that. Yeah, I don't know why. Well, mine is fine. 4 line. It's colored. So it's clear. File is blue. Mine file is white. I'm not sure that that's.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if that was a function. Because it's like
Yeah, it is fine. It is working.
So basically what this is supposed to do is print the foreign sentences in the C drive in a notepad.
So it turns it into a text file. Yeah, text file. And then it reads the file. I don't know why yours is mystifying me because I see nothing wrong. Maybe another pair of eyes. I don't know. And it's not giving a reasonable error. It's not crashing on any line. All right, so I'm going to start.
I got it.
You got it?
Yeah.
What was your problem? Maybe it's hers.
Check